Listen up, Rangers. Welcome to the Geek Chest. My name's Steve, and today we're doing another TierMaker list. This time we're going to be updating my favorite Godzilla movies of all time. Why? Because why not? Anyways, main reason is just because since I did that one, we've had like Shin Godzilla, we've had King of the Monsters, we've had the animes. So I feel like we should kind of go through this again for the most part. Plus, I feel like this, instead of doing like 1, 2, 3, 4, we can kind of just go over, which is pretty much essentially ones I really enjoy, ones I really don't. But anyways, I guess we'll kick things off here with, if I can find it while looking at it. We got the 1954 film, which really like. I like the dub too. As you can see up here, it doesn't actually include the dubs, which makes me sad. Which I don't get why King Kong versus God. Anyways, should have the. Should actually be including that it's missing raids again. Or Gigantus the Fire Monster, if you will. Anyways, 54. Really like the movie. Iconic. Actually has a really good... For me, I actually really like the dub too. I'm going to stick this one... Put an A so far. Might come back. Let's see. Well, actually, you know what? We're going to stick that down here. Because now that I think about it, like, I really enjoy the film, but for the most part, the way I should probably order this list is, like, what am I most inclined to pop into my DVD player at a given time? I feel like that's, like, middle of the road. Like, this is, like, when I feel like I need to watch some Godzilla movies. That's when I pop that one in. But most of the time, I'm not, like, if I really want to watch a Godzilla movie, it's not usually my go-to. Unlike the second one, Raids again, I'm actually going to put it a little bit higher. Which may seem weird because I know, like, this is, like, technically the better movie, but, like, in terms of dubs, I actually really like the Raids Again dubbing over this one. Then just, like, they add a little, like, 50s sci-fi sound effects to it. I always just really liked. I like that they actually tried to make it into its, like, own monster movie, too, where it doesn't really quite tie into this. It sort of does, but not really. And I just thought it was, like, a neat little, like, timestamp. Plus, like, the fight's pretty sweet. Now we need King Kong versus Godzilla. God, it's really hard trying to look at this because you see, like, half the head's missing here. King Kong versus Godzilla. Still easily one of my favorite Godzilla movies ever. Just like the fight scene. I like the story. The characters are amusing. Actually very memorable as well. Like, the Kong suit's not really that great in the movie. Probably in terms of, like, con suits, it's probably one of my more least favorites. But like, the way everything plays on the movie is great, and it has my favorite Godzilla suit of all time. So I can pretty much, like, I can always watch this movie. Next we have Godzilla versus Mothra, or The Thing. This one, in terms of, like, suits, not my favorite. As we've seen in the previous list, like, 64 was kind of just chilling down here. But as an actual movie, I think it's fine. Nothing amazing, nothing bad. Personally, it's just like, it's got a good plot to it. But like, the fight scenes are a little bit, like, lackluster, and then again, not a big fan of the Godzilla from that film either. Somewhere or other, there is a Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster poster, but I can't find it. I think it's this one. Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, again, kind of like run-of-the-mill movie for me. Don't hate it. Don't love it. And for the Astro Monster, I usually place that a little bit higher just because I enjoy the fights a little bit more in there, and I love the whole them traveling to Planet X part, and then, like, Godzilla and Rodan fighting there, and the whole mind control thing, and them being taken out by sounds, essentially. Really good movie. Nick Adams is awesome in it. It's really put my knowledge to the test of, like, which movies go in which order. So we had this one. Sea Monsters next. It's so hard to actually find the right Godzilla movies in this. Because here's Destroy All Monsters. There's Revenge. The hell's Sea Monster? You guys are probably just, like, yelling at me in the comment section. Sea Monster. Sea Monster. Sucks. Going on. I guess to reiterate on this one. For me, it just doesn't feel like a Godzilla movie at all. Which it wasn't. It was originally planned to be supposed to be a King Kong sequel. So it just kind of, like, Godzilla just seems a little bit out of place. The fight scenes weren't really that great outside of the whole boulder volleyball. Condor is disappointing, and for the most part, like, cast of characters are a little bit like, I don't want to say forgettable, but when the humans are easily the best part of the movie, for me, it's not usually what I come to a Godzilla movie for, which is odd because, for instance, we complain about human characters, this movie being a negative, but when the human characters are actually fairly enjoyable, everything else kind of sucks. So we'll keep that one there. Because for the most part, like I'm mostly watching any other Godzilla movie other than this. Well, okay. Now I think about it, we're gonna move that one up a rank, because this is gonna be for a special section. All right, for Son of Godzilla, more or less goes in the same category. Just never really cared for the movie that much. For me, like the characters in this one are actually super forgettable. Like for the most part, I don't even quite remember the plot other than they were trying to change the, like, control the weather. That ties in because that's how they kind of like freeze the monsters at the end. Yeah, just like fight some bugs. Suits are ugly, and nothing really much else to say. It's a very forgettable movie for me. Now I know like a lot of people like growing up, they really like this movie, and it does have like a nice message built into it, sort of like Godzilla's Revenge in a way, but not quite as shoehorned in. Which, sadly enough, after hanging out, we're gonna skip Destroy All Monsters real quick. After like hanging out for it as a bit, and we actually went back and rewatched Revenge. I'm starting to not really mind this movie that much, because it's like I don't really care for this movie. I don't really care for this movie. I don't really mind this one's plot per se than Gabbro Suite. Plus, it kind of like gives you the best parts of these two movies and tosses them into here. So it kind of bypasses that and gives me like both of these movies into one. I kind of have been growing to appreciate that a little bit more. Destroy All Monsters, awesome movie. It's got like every monster that's like appeared in all these movies in this one, except for certain copyrighted ones. That, and just like all the action sequences are cool. Like the set pieces are neat. Granted, it's got some kind of like hilarious little bloopers in it with like Gorosaurus popping out of in Paris when it's supposed to be Baragon, and he digs now. But other than that, pretty sweet. After that, we have Hedorah the Smog Monster, which, for me, pretty middle of the road. It's got like the pollution plot in there. Suits are cool. The fight scenes are neat. It's a little bit trippy, though. Like I never really quite got into the whole psychedelic aspect of this film, but this guy's like a little bit more of like a horror element to the movie too, though, which I can always kind of get behind. Godzilla vs. Gigan. Actually, like, is another one of those. I really like the characters. Fight scenes are actually pretty good too. It does rehash a little bit of some of the other previous Ghidorah movies for some of the fights with Ghidorah. But Gigan's a pretty interesting monster. I like most of all the characters in it, plus how it kind of like ties in a little bit like the manga artist into it, and it has the whole corny bit. Pretty much whenever I come back to this movie, can't say I ever really hated that. It's probably one of the ones like from my childhood I've seen the most. That and Megalon, but Megalon I never really quite got into as much. It's got a lot more kaiju fighting, and Jet Jaguar is also a really cool introduction into the series. But for the most part, never really cared for the other human characters in that one. So outside of the fight scenes, movie's a little bit of a chore. Then we have the Mecha Godzillas, which we have Godzilla vs. the Cosmic Monster, the first introduction of Mecha Godzilla with King Caesar. Pretty decent. This is one of the ones that's kind of like run of the mill, but it's got like some cool plot points in it with like Anger's fighting Godzilla that kind of reveals that things aren't the way they seem, and the introduction, the first fight between Godzilla and Godzilla was always really cool. But between the two, I'm gonna put TierMaker Godzilla a little bit higher for me because Titanosaurus is just such a sweet monster, and for the most part, the way the plot flows, I really like it. That and the fights are pretty sweet in this one as well. More so than I feel like for Godzilla versus the Cosmic Monster. Then we get 1985. The Giant Face Godzillas. This one's an A for me. As a standalone Godzilla movie, this is probably my second favorite one now. For me, I feel like I put Shin Godzilla. It's going to be in the... I feel like can things share the S class? feel like things could share the S class because I really enjoy that movie. Like for like the Shin, like I was talking about in the previous one, like some of the CG is a little bit wonky at certain points. Mainly after the beam attacks out of the back, where he kind of like jitters a little bit, and then towards the end of the movie when he's doing the beams out of his back too, looks a little bit off. But a lot of that just has to do with it being brightly lit, and that's a little bit harder to hide some of the some can't talk today. Some of the flaws in the CG, but plot's awesome. As much as it's pretty much just a movie of conference rooms, plot is awesome. 85 used to be pretty much here for me. I'm gonna knock it down just a little bit. Especially like the weird dub where like the plot sort of changes a little bit. But still a really solid movie for me. Godzilla vs. Biollante. This one also in the S class for me. Easily my favorite of the Heisei Godzilla films. Especially with Biollante being one of my favorite monsters. And just like it's a pretty crazy plot with the whole like plant being possessed by the soul and stuff like that, and you kind of start getting like shades of Smaller Monster a little bit here, but still pretty sweet and kind of like changes the course of the way the rest of the Godzilla movies are gonna go for the 90s. Next we have Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. That one's an A one for me. With the whole time traveling aspect, you kind of learn a little bit of the Godzilla backstory, which I always thought was cool. And then it kind of introduces like a little bit of Terminator to it as well. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. I used to love this one, but like every time I've come back to it as I've gotten older, it's just kind of slipped down a little bit here and there. I think we're gonna put it like middle of the road for now. Because again, it's one of those like the monster fights are cool. But for me, like when Godzilla's fighting flyers, it's never really quite as exciting because it's just like a lot of pecking and flying back and forth and things running into things. But like the parts of Mechagodzilla are always really sweet. And then we have Godzilla vs. Mothra, which never was quite a big fan of this one. Love the suit. Like easily one of my favorite Mothra designs. Super Batch is really cool. But it's just beams. Beams upon beams upon beams. So for me, like the fight scenes aren't quite as cool. So we gotta knock that one down a little bit. It's more or less the same with Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla here. Oh yeah, actually this is supposed to be before this. We're just gonna ignore that. Space Godzilla, mostly the same thing. That and like again, like the human characters in this one are just like super forgettable. But it's kind of like Taken Godzilla version, so it's not bad. I really don't like crap on it as much as other people, but for the most part, I much prefer to watch most of these other ones. And then finally, we have Godzilla vs. Destroyer, which is an A1 for me. Just like a nice conclusion to the Heisei series, kind of teases that there could be more Godzillas. Plus, fight scenes are sweet. Human characters are cool. It's also got a little bit more tension and a little bit more of a horror aspect with the Legion aggregate or the Destroy aggregates. But it also, like, as I say Legion, also kind of reminds me a lot of the Gamera, which actually came out after this. So Gamera kind of, I saw Gamera 2 before I saw this one, so I always want to say this like influenced it, but it's kind of the other way around. For Millennium, mostly kind of run of the mill here. Nothing too crazy happens in the movie. Orga's super sweet though, but the fight scenes are a little bit short in this one, to say the least. So there's not really that much action, but it does have like a decent amount of world building in that one. Godzilla vs. Meg, is that Megaguirus? I can't tell. It's really hard. I think that's Megaguirus. Wasn't ever a really big fan of Megaguirus for the most part. Just fight scenes are a little weird, and then it's kind of like, again, we get like a little bit of that horror aspect of the movie, but then there's also like this little weird goofiness that happens with the fight scenes, so it's kind of throws you through a loop a little bit in terms of what it's trying to be. And again, fights weren't really quite that entertaining for me. GMK, again, like plot wise, I'm gonna put this like middle of the road. Ooh, maybe actually I'm gonna knock it down. Yeah, middle of the road. Plot's great. Suits, not so great. Just gonna leave it at that. Godzilla versus. This is Kiryu? Trying to figure out which one this is. I think this one's Tokyo SOS, right? Yeah, it's Tokyo SOS. Tokyo SOS, gonna put this down here. The first one though, I actually really liked. So we'll put that up and one up a little higher. Like the fights is cool. I like the whole dynamic between her and the guy that designs everything. But how she's kind of like out for revenge for Godzilla for what he did. And the fight scenes are just like super sweet in that one. Final Wars, pretty standard. More or less, it's pretty much your destroy all monsters in the Millennium series. It kind of gives you like a nice throwback to some of the other ones. But like the characters are like it's easily the most ridiculous out of like all these Godzilla movies. But like some of the characters I still really like Douglas Gordon is super awesome in this movie. But for the most part, everybody else it's weird because like Power Rangers and the Matrix, and yeah, I just don't know. I don't know what the movie was trying to be, but it's super fun to watch. And then we have Godzilla 1998, which I know initially had this guy fairly low on the list because, again, when I go towards wanting to watch a Godzilla movie, like I want to watch a Godzilla movie. This one isn't usually the one that comes to my head. But I like the Godzilla in the movie. I actually think it's a fun monster movie. But so in terms of like movies, like I toss it up here. So I always liked it because it just was something different. It's kind of what I wanted when I was younger, because like after watching these movies so many times, except for like the Millenniums, just kind of wanted something different, and it did it. It definitely delivered there. 2014. A movie for me. I almost kind of want to put it here because this is one of those films that I love the cinematography for it. I like the plot. I actually enjoyed the human characters for the most part. Ford's okay. Like, granted, plot armor, but he was okay. Fight scenes are cool. I actually like the Mutos, and for the most part, the way the movie's set up, I don't really have any complaints. So we'll put it at A. Because I kind of want to put it there, but for the most part, it is kind of a slow movie though. So we'll stick it down here for now. Now we get these bad boys here, and this is where I'm kind of I'm not sure what I should do, because for the most part, that's easy. This one's easily if we had crap garbage tier, this is easily my least favorite of all the movies. This one, on the other hand, is literally just this movie here, but in a different place for the most part. But it kind of hits the same beats, and even the final battle is literally pretty much the exact same game plans going on, but with the city instead of a bunch of robots. And then this movie is just like pile of nonsense. But I kind of enjoy what they were trying to do here. Like, I get it, but it just kind of fell flat on its face, and especially with the sequels, it just didn't really help to elevate it for me. I'm going to stick them here, because I will say, we're doing this list as stuff that I'd be inclined to pop in, right? Like, if I feel like watching a Godzilla movie, this is the order and things in which I would pop them into the DVD player. And for me, I feel like the only reason I would watch this one is because I plan on watching all three of them. And I feel like that's not going to be anytime soon or ever, because I don't need to see this one again. And then for the newest one, I feel like I need to watch this one again just so I could get a kind of better grasp on where I want to sit this one. Because for me, I kind of want to stick it here. But then again, the fights were really cool, though. So I kind of want to put it here because it's kind of like the opposite of this one. Like this one, the fights were definitely a lot more entertaining. And it's kind of cool that we get to see some of the older Toho monsters. But the human characters were not nearly as entertaining as this one's, which is weird to say because for the most part it's like Bryan Cranston and then all the characters are essentially the same, but we had Bryan Cranston, so this one, for me, character-wise, stands out a little bit more. But plot-wise, eh. I mean, like, I'm gonna stick this on A just because like the fights were sweet. Like as like visual entertainment, this one's really good. But for human characters, could have been better. But it's not bad enough to where it's gonna be like these movies where I'm like, I just gonna skip ahead to the fight scenes. Like this one, like the way the plot and the characters are, I can still you can easily get through the movie, and definitely to the pretty sweet fights. But anyways, that's essentially it. For the most part, the anime ones are the only ones I really never want to watch again, which is painful, super duper painful. These three are easily my favorite out of the Godzilla series. Pretty much you get like one like middle of the road, one classic, and one newer one. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think this list is great? Do you think it's hot garbage? Let me know in the comment section below. And what you guys would do to change some of this stuff around. So for the most part, I feel like some of this could be shifted around more. But for the most part, this is, as of me sitting here today, this is how I feel about this. I don't think this one's going to change anytime soon. But we shall see. And help us defeat those kaijus by hitting that like button, subscribe, and come range today. See you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.